Welcome to Brandon Hall Group's Excellence at Work podcast. You will hear from industry leaders covering innovative, cutting-edge business, learning, and HR topics that weave current market research and technology into each episode. Our Excellence at Work podcast is hosted by Brandon Hall Group's Chief Operating Officer and Principal HCM Analyst, Rachel Cooke.
Hi, and welcome to our podcast, Excellence at Work with Brandon Hall Group. I would like to introduce our guest today, Nick Eriksen, who is the Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of Eurekos. Hi, Nick. How are you doing?
Hello. Hey, thank you. How are you?
Great. And today we're going to be talking about the extended enterprise. And this is to also support an upcoming webinar that we are partnering with you on, focused on the extended enterprise, particularly called Mastering the Customer Education Journey from Awareness to Advocacy. This webinar is scheduled on February 21st at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So today we're just going to kind of talk about some of the things that you're seeing, some of our research on the area of kind of understanding, how best we can serve both our customers and our partners, and a little bit about Eurekos. For those of you that are listening or watching us, they are a purpose-built LMS that rapidly onboards and continuously engages customers and partners. It includes integrated suite of tools for certification, e-commerce, branded portals, mobile learning, and rapid content. This makes it easy to deliver product training that retains more customers and transforms partners into advocates. They are also a platinum preferred provider with Brandon Hall Group, and we've worked with them for a number of years. And so we have a really good relationship. And again, Nick, I'm looking forward to our discussion today and to sharing with our community some of the things that we're seeing and kind of help them, kind of decipher through a lot of what we're hearing as far as tips and best practices. So Nick, why don't you kind of share a little bit of your perspective of, what do you think about when you think about the extended enterprise? What does that mean to you? As a provider, as a partner, as from what you're seeing, what are some of the things that we really kind of need to think about?
Well, the extended enterprise as a concept is, people think that this is like internal driven for employee training and so on, but that's not really the case. It is that too. But what it really means to us is that it has a certain level of complexity built in. And for this, it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to be, a big manufacturer with 10,000 employees, 100,000 employees, or anything like this. You could actually be a very small company of 50 people with a global reach. So you could be delivering training as a professional training provider, for example, in a specific topic that you are a specialist in, but you need to serve global clients that are in 200 countries in 50 different languages. And you need to be able to serve them with e-commerce, with organizational support, with, analytics and, to prove that what you are doing is giving them the value that they're investing in. So extended enterprise is about complexity in a number of different areas, to support business requirements, basically. And it's not about the size of the company.
Right. And, we're seeing from our research that over 70% of companies are delivering learning to some type of extended enterprise, whether it's to their customers or their partners. So that's a really big community, or really big, large part of their business that they need to serve. So, and yet some of the training that they offer may not be mandated. Some of it may be for profit. Some of it may be a benefit to helping them their partners better understand their products so that they can sell more of the products or engage their customers better. So when you have this type of learning, how do you create meaningful learning where it is engaging and attractive?
Yeah. So you're absolutely right when you're saying that there's you can segment this in various ways, and there's different audiences, and not all of this is for sale. So if you are a manufacturer of let's say some product that does analysis of fluid or anything else like this, which is something that we have. For example, in hematology and other things. So, these could be global, companies that has, that serve hundreds of countries. And they can't sell their training, and they don't intend to sell their training. It's not a profit center. But it doesn't mean it doesn't have a market value, because what it does is that it's an entirely different set of KPIs. So you're talking about, product adoption, job task analysis, being able to, to have, lifetime value for the people who are using those products. There can be certification involved. For example, if you're talking about, particular products that actually cannot be used unless you have certification, because if you read this wrong, people can get hurt, and it could also be a safety issue. If you put a lid on a rotator, in the wrong way, or whatever it is that you need to do. So there can be, various motivations for actually doing those trainings that has got nothing to do with money. But the market value that you're delivering directly impacts, your ability to renew contracts, to have a success, in the hospitals. It directly impacts your, how much of your cartridges and, other things that you sell as a company. And it definitely impacts your brand value. And all of these people needs to, to get to be your ambassadors in principle, so that you will have a contract, even if it's a government contract that happens, every 5 years or every 3 years and so on. So this is about customer satisfaction. This is about, product adoption. This is about lifetime value. And this is all something that's measurable.
I was just going to say how important that measurement piece is.
Yeah. And especially because sometimes when you have these kind of companies, you're thinking scale. This is not about, this can be hundreds of thousands, of people at the other end. And if you have a customer success management team that needs to, to get in contact with every nurse or every specialist or every safety operator, at the other end, it's impossible. So it's also about time to market and so on that, that's in play here. But the thing is that you are able to scale, your business and your customer success management doing this right.
And we're still seeing that products and services are the number one type of training for the extended enterprise. And then second to that, about less than 50% are generating revenue. So it's an interesting mix to develop or to be able to address appropriately. But the metrics and kind of establishing the baseline goals and objectives from the training, and then to be able to articulate that or demonstrate that through your dashboard or through your communications is very important. As you mentioned, this is also important for contract renewals. It's important for we're also we've seen it post-pandemic, the rise of the contingent workforce and the way that this workforce has to be also engaged or developed or trained is critical to the success of their employment, retention, and the performance of the business. And so all this is integrated with each other. And then, going back to the technology is the enabler, but the content and the goals that you outlined, or the goals that you desire, has to be well defined at the very beginning.
Yeah. You have to have, when you start out on a journey such as this, you probably evolve. So maybe you are starting at a certain point where you just need to be able to have, set a few KPIs, and then you can become more adventurous after this, where you start to connect it, to other things in the business. Because when you're looking at it, the other thing that characterizes, especially if you're doing customer education, is that, sometimes, and this is not to make it less, but sometimes companies ignore their employees, sometimes a little bit, but they have a different sense of quality about what they want to deliver towards their clients. This is their livelihood, directly impacting the bottom line, immediately, right? So any kind of mistake that you do here, this also includes security considerations, that are, quite high about this. That can have a really swift and very hard impact if you do something wrong. So, for example, when you're talking about, we have also we should, talk about the partner and the reseller and this distributor, setup, which is also part of this. But when you're creating content, you need to be able to, your expectations for your engagement level should be pretty high, and the quality that you are, creating that content around also needs to reflect, different departments that, has an impact here. So it's marketing, it's sales, it's customer success management. It's not the same as, driving it's just different than, going through an internal situation where you have HR and, compliance, and you've got, it's just a different set of cross-functional combinations that you're looking for, right? And sometimes the data that you need in order to prove the outcome is not necessarily only coming from one system, right? So this could be related to, depending what it is, it can be related to things that you're doing with your, in your CIM. It will be your ticket system. It will be other things that you need to correlate data from here. And also, marketing might have, for example, maybe you're doing something like a net promoter score on a company level. But what you can do when you actually, have training like this in your products and your services, for that matter. And it's not just self-paced training we're talking about here. It can be all kinds of learning journeys that you're providing to give the best quality and the best training and the best support to your clients. But this type of thing, I lost my thread here. But in any case, these kind of, when you're doing these kind of things, then you would also be able to do. I'll come back now. You would be able to look at a transactional NPS. So like you have your customer, satisfaction scores and by questionnaires and so on that you're doing. You would be able to do this at a much more granular level because you already have your clients, and your resellers and your distributors, onboarded in there. And now you will be able to measure specific products and services and how they receive these, which, gives the training that you're doing a different kind of impact and scale. So, you can compare, high performing parts of your organization, regions, specific resellers, partners, and so on, how they have been trained and what that outcome is and how that impacts, those KPIs that you have set up, whether these are financial ones or it is, NPS, or, other satisfaction, or, the, how they are engaging the market. But sometimes you need those, some of those data to actually see and prove that they come from other places.
Right. I mean, some of it is quantitative, but then it's that qualitative piece where they can provide those testimonials of how it was meaningful, or how the experience affected them, how they are excited about, about the next type of training to come, or learning experience. And so when you see testimonials like that and they come back for more, and when they don't have to, that does show how meaningful that particular content or experience was. And that helps you kind of also, as you continue to develop other programs, it's important, to pilot them in smaller groups, or in groups where you can measure and be able to utilize that data, and how you either refine them or continue to deliver them in, in that way. And how they get delivered is really important. And, knowing your audience and knowing their restrictions, or knowing the type of environment that they're in, because you can have great content and it could be, just what the company needs, or just what the, function needs. But if your audience, let's say, is still have, or they have restrictions, or they can't access certain types of technology or bandwidth, that all just then creates a negative experience. And unfortunately, no matter how good your content or how good your platform is, if you're not able to adapt to your user, your audience, that has a negative effect on what you're trying to accomplish. So you are a learning company, and you have a learning management system, and that continue to evolve in what we see, a lot around the importance of it, around the accessibility, the integration. What are some of the things you feel today that are paramount for what someone should look for in a system? What should they consider? How can they optimize the system that they may have? What are some of the best practices that you see?
Well, there's a number of them, and of course it depends, on your specific scenario. But for example, the ability to create content within the system when you have your own products, and that you are able to change the fact that you're not going through a keyhole, but you can, engage your entire organization and help, create this content and manage it. So if you have, assets that are super easy to update across, and we're talking localization in here. So this is where this becomes a, really big thing. So for example, automatic translations, this is happening, automatic subtitling of your videos, listening to the audio and so on, all kinds of things that helps you, execute this. And you can only do this if you've got an authoring system inside, that you would actually be able to take control of that and start to use AI in these relations as well to help you. But having the assets and the ability to edit them and single source them makes it possible for you to go across the globe, update a single asset, and it's updated instantly, 70 different places. Why is that important? Well, that's important because you've got specific markets that has, specific products, and services. It's not the same as the other one because we as a company grew by buying other companies. I'm talking as a manufacturer here, for example, right now. So we've been slowly acquiring, different companies, and they're not all, all the products are not everywhere. So for me, this is one of those things that, makes it possible for you to, to get just-in-time production into the markets that you are dealing with on all kinds of products updates, specifically and very precise. Adaptive learning, if you're looking for trends, then, AI is big, and it's bigger and bigger and bigger in various ways. But AI doesn't know your products, the way that you do. So there's also a quality issue here. And that means that, your adaptive learning that you would want to have inside should be based on personas that you actually can control. And this means that you would be able to, at the right points in time, ask the right questions, identify, also by human intelligence, by asking those right questions, to give people options to, this is the time, not just to get a new piece of learning, but this is the time where you actually need to get in contact with a sales employee or, a support team or an instructor, So it's, you need to break the barriers of this kind of, super simple self-paced going through 1, 2, 3, 4, but you need to be able to engage with, your organization through adaptive learning. Also, when you're doing this, when you're looking at it from a business perspective. So that's one. And then there's this whole analytics, comparison, and it's getting more and more, important that you can prove these things beyond simple certification, processes. And it's actually possible to do this. Now you need to put in the right kind of, elements, technical elements in order to be able to pull this out. So interoperability to pull data in, to make this smart is super important. A super important thing is to have a very strong API. Yeah, so that would be highlighting too. And then if we're talking about technology on another place, there's this whole organizational layer and e-commerce. Even though this is not money always, then it can be cost, or it can be money sometimes, but not always. And there's different models for this. There's multi-currency. There's, a lot of things that you need to deal with. Virtual credits instead of money, because your marketing team needs to be able to, to give something and provide something, even in negotiations with products that they're selling to, one of their clients. So there's so many aspects of the extended enterprise that you need to do, in this. One thing that I would also like to say that may surprise people a little bit is that security, cybersecurity, has been, more important than ever. This is not just, as something that you do like at the end. Cybersecurity is something that you need to consider upfront. You need to make sure that, you're working with a technology provider that has, done intensive, investments in, ISO certifications, data privacy, and can prove it, and is continuously doing this, having pen tests and so on. And what we see, for example, is that the companies are getting more and more demanding here with good, there's a good reason for this, of course, right? But this is not just something that's like a technical issue at the end. This is a business barrier. If you are not able to protect your clients' data appropriately, because that would be your concern, it's your clients that you're putting out there, and there can be, lots of them, then this is actually a business requirement that equals any other functionality that you might be offering in this space. It's even more sensitive because it's clients.
Right. And that has become a big issue, is the cybersecurity and, the level of sophistication that they, and how they can disrupt your business. It continues to grow and to be a real issue, and something that you really need to consider, especially as you're looking at your client, even more so than just managing your internal people. But if I think there's even a higher level of importance because it is the extended enterprise, and they are trusting that they're being protected in your environment, and if you don't have that in place, or if you're not confident that at least that you have a process and a procedure, in that your system can protect, and also in case there are any issues, that you can quickly course correct or quickly adjust to helping, remedy to them. So that's something that you really need to consider. And then especially, again, going back to our research, we see that over 60 or close to nearly 70% of companies are using an LMS to deliver to the extended enterprise. And with this, you really want to trust in your partner that you have the ability to scale and the ability to use AI, or the ability to have AI and to help, not just AI, because you have to have, you don't just have AI just for the sake of having it.
It's not a magic thing,
No.
just don't. Yeah.
I know. I think people are so afraid that it was going to take their jobs away, and that, we don't need people, but the people are what then defines what you want to predict, or how you want, or the persona, and the type of learning that
Yes.
persona is attached to. So you really need people, and you need experts to help build those personas and help build that workflow so that that it makes sense. Otherwise, you're not providing relevance.
No, I mean, I think you also have to. I completely agree with you. And there's certain things that AI is fantastic at, and unbeatable. And putting together a quiz, for example, as some do, based on in exceeding, difficulty and so on. But it's just much more complicated than this. This is also about where the human intelligence comes in. And this needs to be part of that persona that you are creating, and you need to be able to reach people. I mean, we're talking about the scale here. It's not because you want to put yourself out of business by not having contact with your clients. So they need to be able to get in contact with you, for most cases and for most products at least, right? And you need to engage this at the right times, at the appropriate moment. And this is part of it. And this is not something that, this is something that you need to be able to define and control yourself. Yeah.
Right. You do have to have a good client service.
Yeah.
And high touch. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how good your AI is, you lose that human connection. And we can't entirely go away from that, the technology is great, but it's also the culture and the people that make it great.
You also have to, one thing that at least we realized that, is important. You mentioned before that you need a partner, and, what does that mean, right? Because you are not buying a piece of technology that just plugs into everything that you have, and your business models and all your processes and so on. Once you start to want a little bit more than just, your first iteration, then you probably need to adjust something, and you need to be able to have a partner who can actually do this for you, work with you, support those business models that you will be able to, you will change them, you will develop them, and integrate to your products in your context for your markets and so on. So it does require adaptation in order to do this. It's specialized. It's your business model. It's this thing that actually makes you as a manufacturer or as a professional training company or whatever it is that you're delivering. This is always unique. And whatever it is that you're using as a technology, you need to be able to partner with someone who actually can do this for you and with you, right? So that's something that we have found is very important, because nothing clicks 100%. It just doesn't work that way. Yeah.
Right. No, it doesn't. And I think that's well said. And a good way to kind of wrap up our discussion today, or our chat. Unless, Dick, is there anything else that you'd like to, any lasting advice or tips that you have?
No, I think we have covered on, anything that, I could just think of it at a high level. But again, it's this is data driven. So if we could end it at this, so you need to be able to define the KPIs, and you can, and you can deliver data on it. It is possible to do this, so that you can actually prove what it is that you're doing.
Absolutely. And there's some really great examples that we're seeing from companies that have a good grasp or a good handle on how to create those in clients that you're working with. And if you find our conversation or discussion today interesting, those that are tuning in, join us on February 21st, and we'll continue the discussion, provide some more concrete examples, and dive deeper into this topic. So it'll I think this year, 2023, has a lot of opportunities for companies to get better. We can all get better. And especially, taking a look at some of the pioneers and some of the companies that have established metrics and a really good ecosystem for supporting the extended enterprise, is, where we think you should, really start from, or, take a look at. You don't have to reinvent the wheel if you're kind of uncertain of where you are in your journey. Take a look at others that have success. And so it is attainable. And those of you that are doing a good job, we have to continue to evolve. The market evolves, the economics evolve, our world is evolving. So does, our processes and our technologies.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this.
Well, thank you, Nick. And it was a really good discussion. I look forward to continuing our chat here, and you have a great week.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.